Welcome, and this theme of this podcast, because it's January 2024, I wanted to reflect back on 2023 and ask you questions like, what was your year in review like? What were the highlights, what were the lowlights, and let's have a little recap. So if you'd be so kind, I'd love for you to give me like a little brief summary of your year in review.
A brief summary. Okay, that is okay. Let's hone it in. I guess it was the end of 2022 that I made the move out to Portugal to live with my friends Grace and Christian and their newborn Layla. And for me, that was a really special move. It was a real. I felt like a tear through the fabric of space and time into a different and calmer existence, and I've been very happy there. From early on, I just really felt that I'd really made a strong decision to be somewhere that I really wanted to be for myself and have a life that reflects what I want, and it's been wonderful. It was beautiful, and early on in that year, in 2023, I started a new relationship with an old friend, and it's going incredibly well. We make each other very happy, and I feel so lucky. And 2023 hasn't been without its challenges, for sure, for both of us, but it's been very nice to be on a team. Which is something relatively novel to me. I don't think I've perhaps been in a relationship quite as healthy and as much of a teamship as this is. So while there have been challenges through this year, I have felt very supported through those challenges, and I've supported her through challenges as well. So it's been fantastic. There's been tough times, but it's been great to feel that by having a team partner, stresses seem to be halved and joy seems to be doubled. And it's actually been twice as nice, even more so, because you've been in a similar situation, and we sort of feel like we've been going along at the same time, to the point that we've shared conversation, and you're like, no way, that's literally just what's happening with us. We just had our first disagreement or our first experience like that. It's been wonderful to have you going through almost exactly the same thing at the same time, and I think it's been helpful for probably all four of us.
Well, that certainly resonates with me a lot, as you've mentioned, or we've been in parallel relationships, new love, going through new love at the same time, and it's been again double good, double good. Like what you just said before, like the troubles seemed halved and the joy seems doubled. Yeah, is really good. But then it's an extra multiplier to have my best friend be like, oh, I'm doing the same. I'm like, oh, isn't it buff? Like, it's amazing.
I actually parroted that phrase from Roz herself. That's what she said to me, and I was like, oh, that's such a beautiful sentiment. I'm gonna, if I have the chance to repeat that, I'm definitely gonna pass it off.
Nice.
But yeah, sorry, I didn't really answer your question in recap. So obviously, it was a move out to Portugal in the beginning, and then a new relationship that started and has blossomed, and then.
Can you tell me how your relationship started? As I know, but I want you to share the story on the podcast because it was so beautiful.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I can do that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, actually, as it would happen, that Roz's family, particularly her mum, was quite keen on us being in a relationship long before me and Roz ever considered it, and likewise, my mum would often ask me like, "What's wrong with Roz? Nothing's wrong with her, Mum. We're not together with other people or whatever, or we're single, whatever." So we had. It was New Year's Eve. Roz was planning to come out to Portugal to visit myself, Christian, and Grace, and Layla, of course. And I was home for Christmas, and I said, "Oh, well, let's fly out together." on the first, and I had booked my flights months prior. I think in early autumn I sort of booked a return trip to the UK, and I said, "Oh, these are my flight details. Get on the same flight." So she did. So she booked a flight, and then closer to the time, I was like, "Well, we're flying out together on New Year's Day. Why don't we spend New Year's Eve together? Me and some friends are having a party in Wadhurst. Come on down. It's going to be quite nice. It's not going to be, a rave or anything wild. It's just going to be a nice dinner and some champagne and, a few games or whatever." So Roz was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll come along to that." And we had a really wonderful time there. In fact, everyone at the party was like, "Oh, boy, Benji, who's the new..." And I'm like, no. We're just mates. "Oh, yeah, sure." But, particularly one of my friends, Nick, who'd had like a few glasses of red, and he was like, "Yeah, but I'm like, "No, Nick, really, you've got the wrong end of the stick. Me and Roz are just mates. We've just been mates for a long time." And then we had we played Articulate, and me and Roz just made a great team. We absolutely smashed it. We were just picking up exactly what the other was putting down. It felt very fun. But still, I was, firmly in a place of platonymy, as was she. And then the following day, New Year's Day, we drove to the airport, and we had previously planned, we'll take some of my mum's mince pies, which are particularly good, made with puff pastry. We were like, we'll bribe the guy or girl on the plane with one of these mince pies and see if we can swap seats, and then we'll be able to sit together. And we're just chatting and chilling, and we get on very well as it is. We often have like pretty deep and meaningful chats. We've got a lot to talk about, which is nice. And then we're just about to get to the gate, and we're like, what seat are you actually in? And I was like, I'm on 20E. Oh no, or we shared it like, I'm like E, 2, 0, 1. And we're like, no way. We were sat next to each other, and it felt, quite fatey. It was a nice feeling. And so we just sat together, and that plane journey ended up being like a really beautiful one, in which we had a lovely conversation, and Roz was sort of asking me about my love life and I hers, and one of the things she asked me was like, what is it you look for in a relationship? And I was I had a good think about it. It was a great question. She was like, what are the 3 things you need? And after pondering it for a while, I was like, oh, well, I think obviously I need to be attracted to them, like, they need to be, I need to be attracted to them, and I think I need to be able to laugh with them. Like, I just need to be able to laugh with them. And having spent the last, 24 hours or more with Roz and just laughing continuously, we did that a lot. It was very much, she was like, I was like, they need a sense of humour. We need to have compatible sense of humours. And in that moment, I was like, oh, sugar puffs. She's sitting right there, actually. I was like, and we sort of went through it all in my mind. And funny enough, reflecting the question back to Roz, she felt the same. And then we had a beautiful 10 days in Portugal together, strictly platonic. I don't think either of us were necessarily even hosting the idea terribly seriously. We weren't certainly interested in making a move or anything like that. It was just, we just happened to have a really nice time, fishing and cooking and, very wholesome surfing. And, and then it took me some time. I actually, wasn't terribly interested in pursuing it. I was like, oh, it's a little bit complicated for like historic reasons. We've had, quite close previous relationships and friends. I was like, it could be, it's just not, this is your mate Roz, just put it down. Yeah. But then after about 6 weeks of trying to put it down and failing, I was like, this is ridiculous. You're not going to get over this woman. You need to see if it's something you can pursue. And I was brave enough and was like, Roz, I think is there a new vibe between us? And and then she was like, oh my God, there absolutely is. I wasn't going to say anything myself, but I'm so glad you have. And then my phone died, and I
Oh, God.
ghosted her for 6 hours before we were able to talk. But yeah, and then here we are.
That's so beautiful, man. I really wanted to share that. I wanted you to share that story because I knew the I guess the punchline, but the fate that put you guys on the plane together. I love that. You're like,
Yeah.
You could have had any plane on this any seat on the plane.
Yeah.
But yeah, fate put you guys together without even asking. And
Yeah.
I thought that was just super lovely.
Yeah, it feels really lovely. It's a nice story, and I'm glad we have that sort of like, romantic fairy tale-esque start to sit on. It's affirming. It's nice to feel that maybe fate's at your back.
Exactly. So what happened from there? What did you have a first date?
That's a good question. No, we didn't. Well, we were in different countries as we
But you planted the seed.
planted the seeds.
I think maybe when you said, what do you look like? What do you look for in a girl? And you're like, well, and then you described Roz, and you're like, oh, oops. I think that was probably the seed was planted then. Hey.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it just took a while to grow, and yeah, we were just speaking and exploring it just over the phone, really. Basically, like, is this something we're going to do? Obviously, it's quite a large undertaking. If you're in a friendship, a good, healthy friendship, you know each other very well. Like you understand each other. You know what you're getting into. You can't just sort of like go on some dates. You're like, right, well, if we're going to cross this threshold, this barrier, we need to be sure because we're potentially going to, risk a friendship. So it's even on date one, things get pushed quite seriously. But yeah, we did have a first date we had a first date when I flew back to England in February, and yeah, we went for a walk and a pub lunch, and yeah, it was glorious, and we were both pretty certain we knew what we wanted from it, and remained to be.
That's beautiful, man. So February 2023. From New Year, we're already painting a beautiful picture of the first month of just like giddiness of that, like, ooh, Because before you have, I guess, that first, affirming conversation or kiss or whatever, you're like, ooh, does she like me? Again, there was a lot of risk involved, and yeah, it's just glorious to hear it all worked out,
Yeah. Thanks,
so
man.
February, you're in a new relationship with a beautiful girl, and come the end of the year, you're as our parallel relationships have run, you've become even closer. What happened after February, man?
So yeah, things developed. I remained in Portugal. She stayed in London, but she's been able to be quite flexible and come back and forth, and we haven't had to do much time apart really at all, so it's been quite wonderful. She came out and stayed in Portugal for July. We actually had she had a pretty tough time at the beginning of July. It was just something that unfolded that I'm not going to share on a public platform, but it was a great opportunity for us to be there for each other, and it was super tough, and there was a lot of stuff to work through, and I actually felt very privileged to be allowed to be part of that and help support her and her family through this tough time, and her family were gracious and welcoming and beautiful in involving me, and I love them all massively. I feel so lucky to have them as in-laws, if you will, because that doesn't come for free. Usually it's like, oh, the in-laws, but absolutely they couldn't be further from the case with these guys. I love them to bits, and I think they can stand me. So it's so
I've actually never met Roz's parents, but I've heard so much about them from you that it makes me really like them. So if I get to meet them one day, I'll be like, I feel like I know you guys already. Kind of thing. And they do sound really special. Yeah,
they're a family certainly that I covet, and I'm glad to have as many interactions with them as I do. They should be very proud of themselves. Ali, the father, is a beautiful, head of family, and Sue, his wife, is, an incredibly caring and open mother, and she's got two beautiful sisters that have welcomed me so wonderfully as well. I just feel like part of the furniture, which is it's very nice. It's nice to have known them previously before we were in a relationship, and I sort of therefore managed to dodge the sort of
interrogation,
the overlooking father of like, are you good enough for my Rosie? And we already had a rapport and a relationship, so it was nice to get to know each other in an unpressured manner before I was like, am I good enough for your daughter? And when I said that to Ali, we were going to the pub for a beer, and I was like, Ali, it's nice not to have to impress the father-in-law, if you know what I mean. He was like, careful. I was like, oh yeah, this is hilarious.
Yeah, and I guess when you have a girl with such a beautiful family, that gives you a beautiful blueprint to sort of follow in the steps of,
Yeah, exactly. My close family is quite small. It's just me and mum, so I'm often consciously or subconsciously on the lookout for role models as families with multiple children or whatever, and it's wonderful to have good examples of partnership and parenthood, and not that I didn't have that from mum, but obviously as a mum can't offer the broadness that a lot of families like the 2.4 can, and
especially like a male role model. Like, do you think Ali is a good masculine male role model for you?
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. I mean, he's great. He's stoic. He's fantastic in an emergency. He's the calm. He's the voice of reason. He's the actor. I don't mean that as to be or not to be. I mean like he will move. He will do things, and yeah, he cares for them very very uninvasively. It's something to watch for sure. They're great.
That's really awesome, man. So that's been a huge part of your 2023, but it's also come with different challenges. And why don't you tell me a bit more about those?
I'm feeling really on the spot and interviewed here. I'm hoping we can bounce this back to you.
Of course.
But sure, I'm happy to answer these questions. So, probably the loudest. I know, obviously, I know what you're referring to. So it was a very close friend of mine. That was very much a parental figure. While we're talking about parental role models, she's always been there. She's been the most constant, other than mum. She was. Her name's Barbara. Obviously, I've spoken about her before. She was mum's bridesmaid. They've had a friendship that spanned over 5-6 decades even, and she's always been around. She's been an ally. She's been someone I can talk to in all sorts of times. She has been a friend and a parent, and she's a family member. She's all sorts of things to me, and it was over a year ago. I think it was in March that she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. That was a heavy blow. It's a terrible diagnosis. Pancreatic cancer is not something that, it's not the one you want, really. I mean, obviously, cancer is never the one you want, but pancreatics is a bit more of a death sentence. It's you're probably not going to get out of this one alive. So that was harsh, and then over the following year, I managed to see quite a lot of her, and she lived a very full, energetic, active life till even a few weeks before her death. She was going to her oldies aerobic exercise class, which I never saw, but it's a very sweet image. They're sort of all elder ladies, mostly, doing their best to do a bit of aerobic exercise and stay fit, stay mobile, stay flexible. Barbara's circulatory system was heavily affected, so she became very, very cold
Ooh,
She had what's called neuropathy, which is where you lose the sensation in your extremities. Makes it hard to like operate your phone or like do dexterous things. But particularly, she was always quite cold. So I have this image of her, which I know happened, was she turns up to exercise class and she's too cold, so she wears her coat and her scarf, and then some of the other ladies lend their coats as well, so she's there all wrapped up in like 3 coats still, like, ooh, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And that's a beautiful image to me for someone that is so dedicated and, so highly motivated and brave and not, tripped up by, very fair hurdles of like, oh, actually, I can't do exercise class because I get cold. Like, just there wrapped up in all your friends' coats, like doing your best. So yeah, I have wonderful memories and wonderful images of her. And it was just earlier in 2023. It was in December that she deteriorated and then died in hospice. And yeah, it's been pretty heavy grief, yeah. But
can you take any lessons from this experience? Because a lot of times that we go through struggle, we get stronger. So I wondered if this has made you more resilient in any way, or if there's any sort of lesson in it.
It was a really savage. It's a savage hole to lose. She's, she was obviously around very much in my younger years, and then as I was a teenager, obviously, I'm not that interested in adults for sort of a period of time, and then into my 20s and 30s, I actually used her as a source of wisdom, a confidant, and we would have very deep emotional conversations. So it is a huge loss, and I wasn't shocked to feel it. I was frightened. I knew it was going to feel bad, but honestly, like, the sadness has actually been pretty awesome, I think, is the word that I feel. I'm like, wow, those are some feelings. And it's, there's actually quite a lot of beauty to the sadness. It doesn't, I don't know, I don't want it to go. I'm not resistant to it. I'm quite welcoming when it pokes its head up, which is a strange thing to say, but it's nice to feel like that. You're like, wow, that's a lot of emotion, and thankfully it seems to come out in quite an acceptable manner. It comes out as grief, as sadness. I'm not necessarily, deflecting it or experiencing it in a difficult way. It's just some very strong sorrow. Yeah.
And you enjoy the feeling?
Yeah, enjoy is probably the wrong word. I don't know. It's a good time to be asking this question because I can't really get a hold of it myself. But she bought me a video for my 8th birthday, I believe, called Dragonheart. It's a beautiful, beautiful film with Dennis Quaid, and he plays a knight of the realm, and Sean Connery plays the dragon, and it's a beautiful film that follows this kinship between the knight and the dragon, and the soundtrack is beautiful, and I've managed to sort of compartmentalize my sadness with this soundtrack, so I can just sort of pop it on and then just start bawling my eyes out. Yeah. And so if I have a long drive, of which I have plenty, I'd stick it on and have a cry and just remember her, and it's a nice place to be.
I think I know what you mean. Sometimes it's cathartic to just let some emotion out, and I think maybe if you haven't let any emotion out in a while, it's nice to have like that sort of like visceral thing to latch onto, to be like, oh, okay, now I can let something out, and you feel lighter afterwards.
Exactly, yeah. The feelings need to be had, and I guess the gravity of the feelings to me, validates how important she was to me. So when I feel as sad as I feel, it's almost like, oh wow, you must have really loved her. Like it's a reminder, it's validation. So it's welcome basically. It's not like as elating as things can be, but it's emotion definitely in a beautiful and raw form.
That's lovely, man. That's really beautiful.
Thanks, man. Well, yeah, there we go. That's really a recap. That's really like the headlines of what's happened for me in the past year, and it's been turbulent and dramatic, and it's also been calm and steady behind all that, to just have support and have love, I guess.
Of course, and I've been very grateful to be part of this journey with you on this year, even though this is the first time. I can't remember the last time I saw you in real life, but we have a very remote friendship, a very, very close friendship, but a very remote friendship.
Yeah.
But this is the first time I've seen you in a long time.
I guess the last time we saw each other was when we did the other podcast.
Oh,
we wouldn't see each other and not do a podcast.
Of course. So yeah. So it would be the last Christmas. Stand by your van. When I showed you the magic tricks.
Christmas?
So, I think so.
Did I come back here at Christmas?
No, I think I can't remember, but I think this might be the first time I've seen you this year. Well, it's obviously
certainly this year, but last year as well, I think.
Maybe, yeah. Interesting. But
anyway,
it's been really nice to have been your companion on this journey.
Yeah, thanks. Well, you've been incredibly valuable to have. We often share conversations that span hours, and I know we've got plenty of space for each other, and that space is super super valuable, and it hasn't been without its ups and downs. It's definitely something that we've grown over, whatever it is. Well, I guess we were friends prior to your injury, but you've done your 5-year review recently, and so we've been friends for maybe just about 6 years, and we've moved a lot with each other. Obviously, we've done this podcast for 3 years.
Yeah, I guess it must be 3 years.
It's coming up to 3 years, I think. Yeah, and it's been wonderful, and we've grown with it, and obviously we've grown together with it, which is great. And I was just talking to you earlier, obviously, and I spoke with Roz about it. We had this great communication as I was driving down, and I think it really encapsulates the value of what we've grown, and what is potentially something that's rare and worth celebrating, and that's the space to be direct, to be honest, and that's something that I personally have found harder and have gradually been learning how to do. And thanks for your help, basically.
You're very welcome, man. You are very, very, very welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure. And, again, I want to echo that back to you as well. Like, my year has been pretty good. Again, I think nostalgia paints over the cracks a little bit. But there's been some tough times, and you've been there for me in those tough times. Looking back, they don't seem that tough, I think, because they're in the past and they've gone now.
Yeah.
They certainly haven't been, I think, in comparison, as tough as the times that you've faced. But any times that there have been issues, you've been there, and it's been glorious to have that friendship.
Well, love you, man.
Yeah, I love you too, man.
Well, let's not leave it just with me. Let's tell me how you and Chris got together, because really excitingly, we're recording this podcast just before we all have dinner as a foursome, and I've never met Chris. I've seen loads of beautiful photos of you together, and I'm really excited to meet her, and it's gonna be a lovely evening. I'm a little bit nervous as well, as you've told me that she is, but I'd love to hear how it blossomed between you guys.
Why not?
Hello, beautiful people. I really hope you enjoyed that part of the conversation. If you want to hear the next part of the conversation, just click up here, and if you haven't subscribed already, consider it, because I hope to share more of these conversations in the future. If you enjoy them, I'll see you in the next video.